welcome to Focus Today. I'm your host, Perry Atkinson. And of course, some of these stories that are headlining our news these days are very concerning. And we came through a weekend that was really quite troubling in so many ways with the various demonstrations that were going on. One person said no matter what side of an issue you were on, there was a demonstration. So I am always honored when we have time to sit down with Michael Letts. He's kind of like our guy in the know. He's the founder and the president and CEO of Invest USA. He is also a minister who has served over 30 years in law enforcement, and he's got that under his belt. He's the author of a book called Truth, Lies, and Control, Finding Hope in an Upside-Down World. Really, this is a great book. It's well-researched. Check it out. There's a picture of the cover on the screen there. And he has a couple of websites, investusa.org. This is where he raises the funds to help police officers have those protective vests, and he gives them to the various departments. It's amazing. A lot of them don't have it, and he fills that gap. And then he has a personal website, michaelletts, letts.us, and there's a picture of that landing page. Brother Michael, good to see you, buddy. How are you?
Doing great, Perry. It's always a privilege to be with you. We thank you that you're persevering to make sure the truth is out there. We sure do need you, Perry.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. We value it greatly. The weekend was pretty active, and quite a few things out of that. So let me take one at a time. What was your take on the No Kings rallies across the country? And I guess now there's an investigation of who funded them. So do you have any take on any of that?
Sure do. Quite frankly, let's work our way backwards. First of all, let's put it in perspective. Now, according to their reporting, they think they had over 1 million people nationwide. They think they had close to 2,000 rallies in various locations across the country during the weekend. That would have been Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Many of those it wasn't noticed, it wasn't all done on the same day at the same time. Because many of the same people were bused around. We have the receipts. We know the documentation, the bus companies. And many of these people were bused from one rally to the next. So if you put that in perspective for a second of all, if you give them 1 million, which I don't think they had 1 million, but if you give them that credit, that's still less than 0.5% of the population of the United States. That's minuscule at best. And then when you begin to go into further, we begin to research where the financing is coming from. You always, in law enforcement, you always trace the money. You go after where the money's at. So we've done that. We're in the process of wrapping those investigations up. Here's where the initial preliminary discoveries show. A vast majority of it actually came from CCP, from Communist China, through various shell companies. That was the first part. Second part of it came from NGOs. The troubling part about that, quite frankly, Perry, is NGOs, you remember, are funded by Congress. That means you and I paid for them. We pay our own tax dollars were used to help further destroy the values and principles of this country. Now, that's just no call for that, especially when they use as violence against our first responders. Then the third part of the funding came from various activists, George Soros, Christy Walton. I knew Sam Walton well from Walmart. Yes, Christy is his daughter-in-law. And quite frankly, she's using foundation money, hundreds of millions of dollars, to fund trying to destroy America. I can't understand, Perry, why you would take the benefits of being in this free country and then use your resources that you gain from it to try to destroy it. It makes absolutely no sense. It's demonic as far as I'm concerned. And then, of course, the fourth area of funding that we've discovered is, you remember, we shut down the borders. What did that do to the cartels? What did that do to the human child sex traffickers and other entities? Of course, it put them out of business. When I say put them out of business, it put a huge hurting on their business. That would be a better definition. And so they have all banded together now in this terrorist network to try to help destroy what's left of this country. And they've all banded together. They said, look, we may not agree on everything, but we agree on one thing. We want to bring America to its knees. So let's band together on this terrorist network that is now existing across this country, and let's work together to try to make that happen. That's what you saw over the weekend. But quite frankly, Perry, if that's their best shot, they got a long way to go. I've continued to be impressed with the American spirit and the American people.
All right, very interesting. So do you think the no king thing's kind of evolved out of the no oligarchic thing, right?
Correct.
Nobody knew what that was, so they changed it to no kings. And
where was you big, Gary?
And then the other part of this is, they obviously aren't students of history. The reason we have the government system we have is to ensure that we have no king. So do you think there's a residual impact of this, or is it just done?
I think it's going to fizzle its way out. Quite frankly, it's already doing that. Let me tell you one thing I observed across the country over the weekend. You know, the sad part about it is this. Let's break down their participation. A good 50% of those were citizens, many seniors, who, quite frankly, had bought into the mainstream media rhetoric. They're just concerned. They're being told America is now under authoritarian rule, and quite frankly, America is fixing to obliterate itself. They're scared. That's why they came out. They came out with signs. They had no idea why they were there. They just didn't want to see America's demise. And so, quite frankly, now that they're waking up to the truth, that element goes away. The other element was those that were being paid by the money we just identified to help destroy the treasonous. They're nothing but insurrection rioters. And quite frankly, they will be dealt with for breaking the law accordingly. Then you have a third portion of this crowd that are just what we call troublemakers. You know, quite frankly, Perry, you see them all the time at any kind of rally for anything. Give me a reason to go loot a store and I'll take it in a heartbeat. That's what the other portion that you saw. Mm-hmm. And all of that, I think America realizes 90%, 95% of Americans, that's not the United States of America. That's not the country we love and fought for and our parents died for. And we want no part of that kind of rhetoric.
Okay. The other thing that happened over the weekend, Michael, was horrible, and that was the first-degree murder of the Speaker of the House there, Hortman, in Minnesota. Your head's on tilt. It sparked one of the largest manhunts in the state's history. Finally, the person surrenders. They get him. But you know what's interesting about this story, and I'm sure you have a lot of comments on it, but we still don't have a clear motive. There doesn't seem to be, we don't know what the political motivation is here. Or am I missing something?
You're not missing anything, but quite frankly, let's talk about what we do know, Perry. We do know this. We know that Vance, who was the shooter, quite frankly, was appointed by Governor Walz as his representative on the Workman Force Board. Now, I've been in politics for 30-some-odd years, Perry. I can tell you this, you don't make those kind of appointments to somebody you don't know. Those kind of appointments are what we call coveted appointments. Those are paybacks politically for people that have done favors either get you elected to support your cause. So without question, for the left to try to say he's conservative, try to malign Republicans or conservatives that they're in the process of creating violence is total falsehood. He is a Democrat without question, and so that puts it into the second light. He's a Democrat. What was he doing shooting one of his own? Well, quite frankly, when you take a look at the press event that was held by the speaker right after the first time in history, two Democrats, herself and a state senator who was also shot 9 times, still survived. But quite frankly, they were the only two Democrats ever to vote against a Democratic proposal. What was the Democratic proposal that was in the budget on the floor? To increase funding for illegal immigrants, to increase health care, to increase other aid to illegals. America has had enough of taking our resources and give them to anybody other than the people that deserve them. And that's Americans. And so, quite frankly, even these Democrats got it. They voted against it. She came out afterwards in a very disturbed press conference after that, saying she realized that what she had done, there would be consequences. She was dead within 24 hours. Quite frankly, I think it sends a very clear message of what they're trying to do. Don't cross us as liberal Democrats. If this is what we think needs to be, if you cross us, there's a price to be paid. Boy, that's a scary thought, Perry.
It is. Do you think what you just said will come out? Because it makes sense. I mean, I realize the 2 people that were shot, 2 died, 2 injured severely, are the 2 that voted with the Republicans against that funding. Do you think that is the sole motive here?
I think that's a key part of the motive. To say it's the sole motive, I don't know that I agree with it's the sole cause, but I think it is a very key part of the cause, and I think they're going to build on that rhetoric. You know, they're desperate. They want power back. They can't get power back if they can't stay united. Their platform is falling apart because, quite frankly, it's bad for America. It's bad for all of us, and people are seeing that. And so they're scrambling to try to hold their Indians together, shall we say, and it's not working.
Okay. The president has pulled back pulled the ice back from going after illegals relating to farm work, hotel work, and restaurants. I mean, there seems to be a theme there. And I've always said that could there be a legal pathway for people to come in and do that work, get into the process, maybe stay, or certainly work for several months and go back, something, I don't know. But the crackdown now has taken those industries and really put them in a scary place, and the president now has recognized that. What's your take?
Well, we had great discussions along that in the administration, and quite frankly, here's where we're at. You know, the leftist Democratic side was saying this is going to destroy the economy because of the industries you just talked about, hospitality, farming, et cetera, that perhaps needed some of these workers. So the president very wisely said, look, tell you what, why don't we do this? Let's go ahead. We're still not going to not go after you. Why is that important? Because you remember, we don't know who you are, Perry. We have to identify every illegal immigrant to find out whether you're a criminal or not, to vet you. Now, once we've vetted you, if you're in a key position, i.e. the hospitality industry, et cetera, that perhaps is suffering from a lack of labor, then we could always take a look at issuing work visas, additional programs that we have to be able to minimize the effect on the economy. And the president is certainly willing to do that. But you notice when he mentioned that, we got no relief, shall we say, from the left. Oh, great, we're working forward together now trying to solve a problem. Didn't mean a thing to them. It just goes to show you, Perry, it has nothing to do with the issues the leftist liberal side are bringing up. They want one objective. America's bad. This president, this administration is bad. We have to destroy it, and then end of story. That's all they want. They don't care about facts. They don't care about what's best for you and I as Americans or for this country.
One other topic, Michael, came out yesterday that looking at the border report came out from May. 0 crossed the border. 0.
Sure did.
A year ago, it was 64,000. A year later, it's 0. Not only does it tell you it can be done, but what do you think?
Well, I would tell you this. Let me release something on your show that has just come out. We haven't made it public yet, and I doubt the mainstream media cares to hear about it. The Bureau has uncovered a plot by the cartels, the leftist liberals, the Democratic National Committee, to try to create instances on the board, putting money and putting a funding source together to try to rush the border, to try to create incidences to make it look like for some reason this policy is causing destruction to the American people, and once again trying to undermine what the American people want. Here's what the principle we have to remember, Perry. When something works, that's when people go after it. If it's not making a difference, they don't care. Why do you think they are pushing so hard to destroy the policies that the president has in place? Because of what you just said. It's working, and working very effectively. America is safer because of it.
One other quick question, Michael, and again, thank you for your time. We've watched an amazing turnaround with recruitment in the military, all-time high. Are you seeing it in police forces?
It is starting, Perry. We still have a ways to go. You say, why is that? Because you remember the mainstream media focused its attention on law enforcement, on demonizing them, making them seem like bad people. They didn't focus that on the military. They focused it on law enforcement and first responders. And so, quite frankly, we've got an extra step to take to overcome that image before we get young people saying, I want to honorably serve my community.
Wow. Good to see you, bro. Thanks for being there. Thanks for your time. You always give it to us very generously. Thank you. And look forward to many visits. We need you. Stay there.
We need the same with you, Perry. God bless you. God bless America. We're going to win. But, folks, just allow God to do what he's doing best. And sometimes that takes a little patience.
Yeah, it does. All right. God bless you, pal. Good to see you.
Thank you.